Kwekwe, greetings. Kwekwe is Algonquin for hello. Algonquin is the oldest language in the Eastern Woodland area, all of the Eastern Woodland area for sure, east of Mississippi. Before the breakoffs of Iroquois and our beloved Cherokee, which left us and ended up being basically the linguistic leader of the Iroquois, who didn't have writing as we came across in this is not really talked about because Iroquois are being made the spokesperson for all Indians. Imagine a spokesperson who doesn't know how to write. Uh, we found out that it was the Cherokee that gave the Iroquois some writing. And so Cherokee was our biggest loss, you might say, of our Algonquin family. And in one of our videos, we said, Cherokee, come home. And we must always extend a welcome to our Cherokee. We live and we learn as Indians. And this is something we came across and we had to have a paradigm shift, is what they call it. Uh, yeah. So try to do the math on a very convoluted history. You realize there were Indians being appealed to by European Moors. Now, this would have taken place well before the arrival of the States was established. So before you take over a country, you want to make some friends, right? Who knows what these Indians got? I just feel there was possibly a language barrier between the Indians and the Black Europeans. And so maybe that was the cause of some Indians turning over their birthright to Black Europeans. I don't know if they know that that's what they did, you see? So before they knew it, they were being called civilized. You sell your birthright, and your enemy looks at you as having been civilized. Uh, he walks away with your land, and you get to be called a Christian, civilized. So hopefully Indians will begin to see the effect of Black Europeans on Indians, and that effect is genocide. I mean, as they say, beware of geeks bearing gifts or Greeks bearing gifts, or whatever. Because it's looking like the civilized tribes and the Iroquois were well established by the time the United States started pushing its weight. And so those were the allies of the United States more than not. I mean, of course, there were you have a little fight with your boo. Sometimes you're not getting along, but the idea is you are involved in some sort of coalition that is against, namely Algonquin Indian, Algonquin, right? But when you break off and you become the five civilized tribes that are now talking about, as we always say, ancestry in Africa, then you know something has gone terribly wrong. Indians are not from Africa. Indians were here before Africa was a twinkle in the Moor's eye. Okay, so no, Unfortunately, it was the other way around. It would have been Indians that were taken captive to Africa, namely West Africa, as well as Europe, and anywhere else they wanted to accuse you of, or just open it up. The point was to get Indians out of America so that we can begin the lie that uh, oh, these were African. Ooh, they were Black European. They were prisoners of war taken all over the Moorish world, so that the Moors could begin to meld their identity into ours. Some people like to believe that there are good Moors. I say there are ignorant Moors and there are Moors that know uh, know the mission. Okay, it's just like being in any secret society. There's a bunch of people who have no clue of what they're in, right? So they get to be called the good ones, the innocent ones. They don't know the goals and objectives, and that's only revealed to them as they go higher and deeper into the belly of the beast, right? Same thing with Moors. So then you have the demonic Moors talking about there's good Moors. They use those quote unquote good Moors as the face. But the question is, what do those good Moors know really about what the whole appearance of a Moor on the face of the earth? What is uh the mind set of a Moor? Um, well, you might begin by saying the main reason that we have quote unquote Moors, which would have been the priests, the ancient priesthood, evolved through generations and sonship, passed down, as we learned from the book of Yaqub, Father of Mankind. Little clues you have to pick up. But the main reason, the existence of a Moor is to convert who they see as heathens into an Abrahamic uh, religion. Okay, so what do all Moors have in common? Starting with the original Blackamoors, the priesthood, they want every single person on the planet to know of their Abrahamic story because they have already created characters for every uh, ethnic group, you might say, every race, you might say, on Earth. They've already cast us in their little play, and all they need is for us to play those roles. Myself, personally, as an American, I am refusing to be an actor in one of their plays. It's basically shall we say, trilogy. Uh, some might call it a trilogy of terror, but it involves three religions that they have crafted based loosely on ancient spiritual systems, uh, basically born out of the dynasty system. Now, usually I would say it came out of ancient Egypt in America, right? But it's looking more like this was a creation of the nobility. not necessarily the people. And when your nobility is creating your religious system, watch out, beware, don't do it. Danger, Will Robinson. Unaffirmative, non-affirmative, non-affirmative. Um, because the nobility generally are crafting a religion that sets them apart as, they're always going to be the nobility, the priesthood, and you're going to be like a serf on their land, you see. So this is what the Moors basically, who are the Moors? Are they? These are the ancient lineage of priests who lost control of the people of ancient America. And the only way they knew how to attempt to gain control was to use religion. These religions have they're fear-based. That's another special feature of Moorish religion. It's fear-based. They're going to use fear mongering to get you to co-sign. They will do anything, but you must take on one of the three religions for a Moor to be complete. He is a Moor is only half a demon if you do not participate in the religion they have crafted so that they can begin to direct your destiny. And it is a destiny of slavery. This is just of this, there is no question. They are inserting themselves as a middleman between you and your ancestors. You don't need a middleman between you and your ancestors as Americans. Now, again, we don't want to uh, offend anyone who is not American. And when I say American, I mean American Indian. What we ask is that those persons, those men and women, might consider that America truly was invaded with what started out as a very Moorish religion. We were always seen as heathen in their story. See, once you take on their characters, you have entered their storybook. So you are known as heathen. So from the beginning, the American, known as the American Indian, was cast in the negative. An Indian appears in the Moorish script as someone who is condemned. This is what American Indians seem to take too lightly, in my humble opinion. You Where you start out in their story is where you're going to end up. Unfortunately, now they will put you on a Ferris wheel, a roller coaster, you know, all of that. You're going to get entertained, but at the end of the day, it is the Moors themselves that will claim the bloodline. You see, you Americans, at least, you're going to be seen as those they have adopted, but you are not of the bloodline until they really need to work overtime to convince you to join their religion. If they will begin to change the story and make you the bloodline. Now, this only happens at a critical time like now. Now they're going to say, you were the Hebrews, you were, the Israelites, but, you were everybody, American Indian is going to be everybody that the Moors need you to be to take on the religion. But an American Indian must reject. Why must an American Indian reject the religion? Because your ancestors would not have co-signed on this. When you take on a new religion, you're cutting off your most ancient roots. And so you're a tree that has been chopped down by, they talk about the cherry trees being chopped down. Now, you better believe that's exactly what their religion is doing to American Indians. Now, some people will be cast as the hero. So for them, it's unfortunately, I'm going to have to say it this way. They're the ones being made firstborn. The Moors talk about supplanting in their scripture. They talk about uh the the take it well let's try to get it how they put it. In the Jacob and Esau story, you have a character, Esau, giving away his birthright, but then you have Jacob stealing a birthright. So there's where the story becomes dubious. Is it something that was stolen? Is it something that was given, but not quite the way we think or are led to believe it was given? So therefore, the person who was receiving the birthright had to go behind the giver's back to steal it. Okay, so it's a theft. Once theft enters the conversation, we have to understand is something is not being told to us, because the idea is, oh no, it was given. You foolishly just gave away your entire future, American Indian, but then the person had to come and steal it. Does that make sense, y'all? Which one do you think it was? How about that? Let's ask the American Indian specifically. In your experience, did you give something away or was it taken away? Okay. So we go a little deeper with it. When you did give it, allegedly, was it in the way that, say, for instance, Chief Powhatan gave it, which was with strict guidelines, and with him still being in control of his land? You see, when Indians, quote unquote, gave land to the British or attempted to, it was with guidelines. It was a specific piece of land, and it was with the inclusion of paying tribute to Chief Powhatan. So does it look like Chief Powhatan, quote unquote, gave away his birthright? No, he didn't, y'all. He didn't. And since the Algonquins were the first that the British found here, we can safely say that the Algonquins did not, quote unquote, give away. But in their, once they get you to co-sign on their religion, they start to change the script any which way they need to. And they will say that you gave away the birthright. But they will still, for good measure, have the element of a theft of your birthright as well, because they got to sort of tell the truth, out of two sides of their mouth. We're talking about Black Moors, guys. Talking about the ancient priesthood, namely the Amen priesthood, or what would become the Amen priesthood. Okay? So there you have it, yo. When you sign on to their script, they start to very quickly evolve the characters. Indians will become the last when their civilization was first, they will be made the last, and then they will be genocided. See, some people feel like we had to be made the last. This Indian does not subscribe to the idea that Indians had to be made last. We had nothing to do with the Moorish world. We mercilessly cast them out of America. We did not genocide them. We cast them out of the Americas. When they come back, it is they who are seeking to genocide us. So, what am I saying? What I'm saying is being made last should not have an element of genocide, okay? Being made last is you just changing positions, right? Let's be very clear, Indians, because, again, a lot of our Indians or a few of our Indians believe that we were supposed to be made last so that the Caucasian could, find his footing. And again, we never discriminate against Caucasians. We do discriminate against Moors on this channel. Okay, let's be very clear. And I'm talking about the black ones. The white ones, I'm not saying that they're saints. All I'm saying is they are not the architect, they are not the CEO. One day, American Indians will understand this completely. Right now, it's still, for some reason, it's still a toss up. I don't see how that is even possible. So, why do we discriminate against Black Moors? Because it is they who are taking my birthright as an American. They would rather me believe that I am them rather than me have my birthright. So you are aggressing me with this. And it is not me aggressing you, Blackmore. It is you aggressing me. What will I own? I will own that my ancestors got rid of you. They did not genocide you. So what you're doing is unacceptable, whether you were a good Moor or a bad Moor. Because guess what? Again, once you go up the ranks, it is then where you learn of the true objectives of your little death cult, okay? Good Moors are the Moors who, from what I'm seeing and my viewpoint, they're the ones who do not fully understand the mission, okay? They are more taken by the religion and they're not seeing the mission. Right off the bat, any Moor should know Americans were not monotheistic, okay? So good Moors, big newsflash. Why you would be seen as bad to me is because you do not understand that American Indians were not Moorish in any way, shape, or form because we were not monotheistic. Remember, we were heathen. And I think a lot of Moors think that once they appear, they are the element that removes our heathenism. No, thank you. I don't wish to remove my heathenism in place of whatever you are offering. Okay, you are a second born at best. So a firstborn would not want to trade places with you. He doesn't have to. Why do you want his place? It is not he who wants your place. It is you who wants his place. So again, maybe one day American Indians will really look at this for what it is. For you, there are no good Moors. How about that? Okay, maybe to others, outside of America, there are some good Moors. For Americans, there's not one Moor that can possibly truly have your best interest unless you are indoctrinated. Then you will think that the Moor has your best interest. Now, again, we never advocate violence, but our words will be very strong, shall we say. We do this in a peaceful manner, just like my ancestors did. Peaceful in terms of it wasn't about ending your existence on earth like it has been sprinkled throughout your monotheism, ending entire nations of people so that you can move in. That's how you do more. So where's the good in that? Oh, it's good because the viewpoint is our God told us to do it. Yeah, okay. You see, this is the problem, y'all. This is the problem. An excuse for bad behavior is just an excuse for horrible behavior. Obviously, the deity that they are catering to is not a deity for all people if their deity is recommending the elimination, the destruction of entire nations of people. Why can't they just be converts? Again, folks, when genocide and lies enter the picture, watch out. If it truly was about conversion, there would be no need for genocide. Why is there a need for genocide? Because there is no tolerance in the more version of spirituality, shall we say. They will tell you that their deities are tolerant, but the actions, again, the eliminating of entire nations of people so that Moors can take their land, and then they want you to convert by hook or crook, duress. It's all about, and Indians need to see why is it critical that you convert? Well, if you convert, then you have no defendant. Say it's a case. Indians are the plaintiff. Moors are the defendant. They're guilty as I don't know what. But if Indians are made complicit by virtue of being converted, then the Moor gets to transfer that guilt to the American Indian. In other words, what I did, you co-signed on. So you're just as guilty as me. So therefore, shall we just dismiss the case with me sharing, quote unquote, his version of sharing your birthright is diminishing you and big upping his side of the family. That's why you must convert Indians. They don't want any loose threads, shall we say. No American Indian here to say, hey, wait a minute. You just stole my birthright behind all the bullshit. See, they don't want that. They want you to say, you are me and I am you. Therefore, we are one because look, we have the same skin tone. Oh my God. Again, where on earth do people relate that way? Because you look like me, you are my family. Because you have a similar appearance to me, we are one and the same culture. We are one and the same tradition. We are the one and the same nation. Where the hell does that take place except when Moors are in America, stealing your birthright from right under your nose? I didn't know this video was going to be about this, y'all. So maybe we'll move on to what the video was about to be about. Or should I just leave it like this? Because I done talk, talk, and talk. Okay, we'll go a little further. A completely different. Today, I did say we wanted to follow up on the last video more on Indians not taxed. And we're talking about More, okay? We're not talking about MOOR, okay? Or MWR, double U's, UU. None of those are us, y'all. Indians are not Moors with a U, and Indians are not Moors with an O or two O's and two. Indians are Americans. And then when we find out what the true name of this continent is, we'll become that. We can't trust. I don't trust these the namers as far as my arm. Okay, I don't know that that America was our original name, folks. Unfortunately, I mean we will rock with it until we know better. Right? There's no harm in that. When you're dealing with piles of lies, unfortunately, this is what you're left with. The closest I've come to what I think is the truth is Horace Butler telling us that the original map, the Wolsey Muller $10 million map, it's $10 million because I guess that's how much it cost to find that original map or how much it was sold for before it was tainted. But Horace Butler tells us that the original name of America was Ta Mary. So far, that seems to ring true to me because I have heard that. Just that it's always applied to Africa, which is what the entire meaning of stealing a birthright is. It's taking something that belongs to one people and giving it to another people. Okay, so they have used Tom Mary to describe the Egypt in Africa when in actuality it was South America. Now, that I said this before, but it's really rather important that we move through the misconceptions and the deceptions to understand that South America was simply called Tamari, or then after that it was called America. We're talking about South America, guys, and I see it again with Morris double talk. It leaves too much open space. It had a lot of people believing, including myself, that Columbus came to North America. No, he came to South America, which was back then known simply as America. This is one of those things you just have to say, damn, I wish they'd stop lying. I wish the lies were a little less. My God. I really wish. This is so confusing, y'all. And it's tiresome when you think about how you have to maneuver through the misconceptions. And so what does that leave us with? Well, to the shock and awe of many North American Indians, they'll realize it was South America as well as the Caribbean who were first being called Indians, not North American Indians. Now, I don't deny that North American Indians are Indians, but I'm just saying, often North American Indians are I feel like they've been brainwashed by the same Moors to think of West Indians as so not you and all that. They're not like us. Well, you have our name. We had it first. I'm sorry. I don't mean to come up. See, I'm not trying to piss off my fellow Indians, but new information is, it's or old information just being properly presented. You know, this is not to diss North American Indians. Only the Moors that deceived them. But truth be told, anything known as Indian in the Americas first were West Indians, y'all. And to be honest, if it wasn't for my West Indian uh, side of the family, I don't know if I would have this aggressively claimed to be Indian like I do, from the very beginning of appearing on YouTube. You know, you may see that I took to being an Indian or known as an Indian. I'm really an American, but then once again, once we find the real name of this land, that's what I am. Tom Aryan, But it was my West Indian side of the family that made me know that I'm an Indian. For sure, for sure. And why do I say that? Again, it was because the first known Indians in the Americas were West Indians. Later on, North Americans were known as Indians. A lot of it had to do with us West Indians being brought to North America. Okay. So again, this is not to diss North Americans. It's just that we're being lied to, North American Indians. I'm sorry, we're being, and if it's not outright lie, it's an utter deception. Okay. So let's see. Now I'm thinking I should do my slide on, India being called Bharat in its ancient name. And then the British insisting on India being called India because the British are the ones who are masters of the dubious name game, where you have one landmass being called the same name as another landmass to cause confusion, to mix up characters. At the end of the day, it's also you can come under the subjugation of some foreign nobility, right? That's why they do it, y'all. They want to mix you up, have you where you don't know who you are, but they're always clear that they're nobility, right? No matter what, they know that they hold grab onto that, right? But the thing is, when you're a self-proclaimed nobility, that's the problem. Because the people didn't ask you to be their nobility. You went about deceptively making all these different people your people, subject to your people. Who would do that, y'all? A priesthood would do that because they feel they're doing it for God. And then they convince the nobility, which I believe is the offspring of the priesthood, that this is God's will, you see. And then it becomes like a mission for these folks to go around and just steal everything. Because what is part of God's will in their world? Part of their God's will, I should say, is that they own everything. They have to, what do you call it? Like it happened, I think, when they were describing what Adam was doing. He had to rename everything. Why do I say rename? Adam didn't name everything. He renamed everything. How do we know this? Well, because we learn later in that Adam and Eve story that there were other people east of Eden, right? East of Eden, right? So that means there were people before Adam and Eve, right? What did they call the things that Adam renamed? That's when they get rid of your language, y'all. Like they apparently did with Algonquin, the Algonquin language, which is the oldest, again, the oldest language in all of the East Woodland. We're finding evidence of that, y'all. It little clues that shouldn't be if the truth were being told. We shouldn't even find a map with Cherokee uh smack dab in the middle of and seen as Algonquin according to one map that we found, right? So Cherokee at one time were speaking Algonquin, just like all other Eastern Woodland Indians. In other words, the further back you go, you will not find Iroquois. You will not find Muskogean language. The further back you go, the language being spoken was Algonquin. So what does that mean? That means that all Indians started, their ancestors of the Eastern Woodland spoke Algonquin. So when you hear Haru sounding like he's all about that Algonquin, that's not to exclude Indians. It's just going back to your earliest existence. That's what I'm doing. In the beginning, I didn't know. I'll admit, I didn't really put the pieces together. But everywhere I looked, I was finding that that's when I changed, had a paradigm shift. I realized, oh my God, the oldest language is Algonquin. So that means all Indians in the Eastern Woodlands spoke Algonquin. I'm convinced that it was the whole North America, y'all. Yeah, I'm just, I don't put nothing past these tigers. So we want to build a little bit on the last video, and now I done opened up a whole new bag of worms, right? Okay, let's see if we can share the screen and let's begin to talk about things that we mentioned previously. For instance, being a 14th Amendment debt slave. Now, as we said before, 14th Amendment was created for African slaves, okay? So right now we're looking at Section 4 of the 14th Amendment. I just took this piece because we want to focus with how are 14th Amendment citizens, not only former slaves, but now that you've taken on this citizenship, you are a present slave, okay? Because again, what did this 14th Amendment start out as? It was part of emancipation, right? Of who, according to the story? Of slaves, right? Now, Indians would challenge that and say these were indentures. But because we have a system that's pushing African slaves. They're going to meld you in together with, and they took it just took about 20 something odd Africans, right, to make everybody African. You see how a little bit of something in the leaven or whatever you call it, the Moors kind of talked about it in their scripture when they talk about you just need a little bit of poison to put in the leaven and then bake a poison cake, right? So you add a little bit of Africa, all of a sudden that becomes conflated to mean every single person that looks something like an African is, in fact, African, right? That's what is happening here. So the same thing with indentured servants and slaves. They're calling the indentured servants slaves, and they're saying they're emancipating the slaves. What they're doing in actuality is pretty much uh, bringing the South to their knees financially, economically, by pulling out the indentures. You gave them the indentures, then they snatched them from under them so that they could fall and they begin to lose their land. The Indians were losing their land. You got to ask yourself, how did how did anything African own land back then, right? How did anything foreign own land in the South? It was the Indians' land, y'all. But by that time, what happened was they had already planted the five civilized tribes in the South, right? So they already had, a little oasis, a little wingman that they can depend on to be part of their script. So basically, they create you and then they destroy you, right? You become five civilized tribes, and then all of a sudden, all the stories about Indian removal and all it's all dealing with the five civilized tribes, right? You enter the story, and the script goes bad later on. At the beginning, it sounds, oh, look, I'm going to be able to still be an Indian, even though I have to let a little bit of European, a little bit of Black European in, but at least I'm still an Indian. And then you find out, nope. Well, you should have read the whole book that we didn't show you to know your demise and what your demise. Your demise is as an American Indian who is part of the five civilized tribes. You own nothing. You're in control of nothing. You have nothing. You are nothing. You're not anything because, first of all, your ancestors are not involved because they didn't live on the land like you are. You're living on the land as a subject to a foreign nobility at the end of the day. If you're a quote unquote civilized tribe, first of all, your ancestors were not civilized, right? So if they became civilized, it was under duress, wasn't it? So you're not living like your ancestors. Stop fooling yourself. Just be real, okay? This is not a diss. This is just the truth. So anything called civilized, you're compromised. You're not what you were before colonization. You're a creation of colonization. Very key to get out of that mess. Apparently, they are like the foundation of the five civilized tribes, if you ask me. I just think they are like the premier of the civilized tribes. Uh, because why I say that is because the Cherokee are they seem to be the masters of the language, the Iroquois writing system and the language, I would say. Because if it is the Cherokee, as we read, that brought writing to the Iroquois, that means they in fact are the more dominant factor of the Iroquois. And I dare say Cherokee may have been used in the writing of what colonizer is saying, the law of peace, right? Iroquois didn't know how to write, y'all. Come on. Cherokee did. So Cherokee, don't get mad. All I'm saying is we could use you back in Algonquian land where you belong. And just you could get it's not serving you, Cherokee. Being a civilized anything. It's just not serving you like it should. You got to reclaim your Indian and start to expect more than what you're getting as a quote unquote civilized tribe. And we can do this in a peaceful nature. Now, remember, when Heru talk, he ain't never telling you to go out and beat nobody down, nothing like that. This is all political, y'all. It's birthright. And it's what is due us, even per the damn Constitution. It's not like I'm even making this up. I'm just reading the Constitution, but I'm hearing what we I guess we have to call them naysayers, even though they are truth sayers. People will think of them as the ones who are, oh, you're misreading the Constitution when you think that Indians were not supposed to be under the jurisdiction of the United States. No, we're not misreading it. We're not. We have documentation from senatorial hearings where the senator, like I spoke about, the senators were grappling with how are Indians being pulled into citizenship when they're not supposed to be. We as Indians have to say, well, if I'm not supposed to be a citizen, that means I have to have my own government, right? Look at me, I'm just talking and we're not even reading what's on the page. I just you talk against the papacy, and all you do is pontificate. Or Heru, what's going on? Let's read this, please. Before I have to slap my own face. Sorry, let's reel it back in. Let's breathe. Let's breathe. You know you're gonna have to be getting ready for work in a few minutes, right? Not a few minutes. We got a little time, y'all. But okay, we're gonna get through this somehow, some way. God, this is the 14th Amendment, y'all. You see up here in the what do you call that thing? The y'all, I'm not you know, computer tech savvy. I forgot what they call this, y'all. Is this the U.S. What do you call it? Oh gosh, oh my God. You know the address, the address bar. Oh my God. Look in the address bar. We done call it something new, okay? Look in the address bar up here, y'all. Is it not the USB? What do they call it, y'all? Oh, come on. Stop wasting time. Come on, Ray. Come on. Get with it. Get with it. But you can see it's the 14th Amendment right here. Okay. Okay. You can see it's the 14th Amendment, right? 14th Amendment, Section 4 and 5. I labeled it that because I took it from constitutionalcommando.com, source for finding all three of the different United States constitutions. Uh-oh, first on. Oh, I'm gonna have to start timing it to know between the first yawn and sleepy time how long I got, y'all. So, how do we know that every United States citizen is actually a debt slave? Let's read. Section 4 of the 14th Amendment reads, the validity of the public debt of the United States shall not be questioned. We want to let's just jump to it, y'all. I got no time for all this wordy-gurdy that Constitution, y'all. You got to break it on down, y'all. So that is a sentence. Okay, here's the beginning of the sentence and here's the end. All that bullshit in the middle, Indians, that's how they've confused us, y'all. So let's read it to get to the point. The validity of the public debt, the national debt of the United States, the corporation that sits in DC. So they're not talking about all 50 states, y'all. They're going to make sure their bills are paid by the slaves, okay? So who's imposing taxes? The highest ones, by the way, federal, right? The state is like, can we have some, please, sir? More, sir, please. Uh, it's the big dog, right? Federals, the DC. It's not even the state, DC. So the foreign entity wants more money than even the states are getting. That's Boss Hog up in there, right? The validity of the public debt of the United States. They're not talking about the 50 states, y'all. As a matter of fact, there weren't any 50 states when this was written. It was only 13, right? So no, they're not talking about all the United States. But of course, once they grab a jurisdiction that was not given to them through manifest destiny, where they just take over the entire North America. Which state told you to do that? Uh, um, the validity of the public debt of the District of Columbia shall not be questioned. How can you be in a free country and not be able to question your own debts? Sound like slavery? Well, that's because that's exactly what it is. Now, we're going to say something very evolutionary right here. What is the difference between a citizen of the state and a citizen of the United States? Okay, the first difference is one of the citizens, the state citizen, is a state citizen. The other citizen, the one we're reading about right here in the 14th Amendment, is a federal citizen. That's the difference between the two citizens the two main citizens in America. One, it started out as a state citizen. And then once the feds came along, the District of Columbia, they created the 14th Amendment citizen. Initially, that meant that all indentures were actually subject to DC, not all 50 states, not the state they were in. Now, remember, all of these indentures were in the South, right? So in the South, they own their land, basically. Well, I'm sorry, not the Indians. See, because they're mixing us up with the indentures. So that's why I said that. Once the 14th Amendment came along, you were no longer, you were now property of the North because that's where DC is. It's in North America, or no, I'm sorry, the northern states, I should say. We all in North America. What you saying there, Ruby? I get some coffee. The northern DC is up with the northern states. So what happened was, and I think that might have been part of the reason for the migration, northern migration, because y'all done was being called by your daddy in DC. He needs you to be a little bit closer, y'all. And he was also trying to bring the South to their knees. And then the South had to adopt the 14th Amendment. That's the real killer dilla right there. All states have to have a 14th Amendment so that the federal government can pull jurisdiction, y'all. Make a note of it. That's what's going on here. There was no 14th Amendment in the southern states. Each state was like a country, right? So they had their own set of the Bill of Rights, which was another shocker to Heru, right? Maybe y'all knew this. I did not know that, y'all. We're so focused on the federal Bill of Rights that we forgot each state has a state Bill of Rights. Now, wouldn't you think that should more appropriately uh, address people who live in the states? Because don't right now everybody live in a state right now? Are we all living in different states? So shouldn't the most expedient thing be for you to be under your state Bill of Rights? Does anybody know what their state Bill of Rights says? No, right? Because all we know about is the federal Bill of Rights. And the federal Bill of Rights begins with the right to free speech. That's why the feds get to grab that away from you because it's theirs, right? So in their regulation capacity, because they have a ball with regulating quote unquote commerce, right? They get to retract their Bill of Rights. Because isn't that what they're doing? Isn't that what the feds are doing? Don't they regulate commerce? So if they are saying that on a platform like YouTube, you can't talk about anything talking about, that which is not, we don't speak of the health issues as of the last 4 or 5 years, right? No, no. So where's my quote unquote free speech, y'all? You see, Indians, why you need to establish your own laws. You don't want retractable laws, Indians. You don't have to be under them. Only foreigners do, as long as they're here. Unfortunately for them, I feel bad for them. I'm going to be honest because I think it's a big lie. I think everyone is being run into America under some American dream, which is a nightmare because you ain't getting them right, y'all. That's the bait to get you up in here. And then once you here, you have to fall into the black and white caste system so you can help, the powers that should not be constantly come up against these Indians, y'all. So that's what it is. It's like, help us. Could y'all come help us beat down these Indians some more? I heard that they starting to call themselves Indians again. Could we get some illegal immigrants, please, God? and give them all this money while Americans are like hoping that they can buy food this month. You know, Indians in a climate like this, you're gonna want to be Indians not taxed again. You're gonna need it the most. Trust me. Trust me. We need it more than anybody. And the fact that we don't got it, that means we the real ones, y'all. We the real ones. We the real ones. Native Americans were never misclassified, as we said in the last video. Native Americans were never quote unquote misclassified, right? But real Indians were misclassified black, Negro, colored. Right there, y'all. That's an indictment right there, y'all. And that's a class action, y'all. Now, I'm not saying we got to do it in their courts. I'm just saying it's equivalent to a class action. Why? Because everyone called black now has reason to believe, a reasonable doubt, that they are actually American, and you have been paper genocided. We need some reparations, y'all. What is our reparations? Our land back and the back rent that you owe. Because if the land is not yours, except through conquest, the land is not yours. The doctrine of discovery was repudiated March 30th, 2023. We are 3 years in, y'all. We can't let that go, y'all. It's written, so it's not going to go, but we need to get on the job. It is written down, so it's not going anywhere. But if we don't want to go anywhere as Americans, the first Americans, we need to find ourselves a copy of the repudiation of the doctrine of discovery, and we have to start making that part of our case. Now, again, our case doesn't have to go to their courts because their courts don't have jurisdiction, but they will be notified that, they have to stop what they're doing. It has to stop. And because you don't have money, as you always claim you never have money, and it's fair because they didn't give these immigrants money, y'all. They gave them credit. But that credit has to be paid back. So what they did was just you know, increase this public debt that we just read about, right? That public debt, all the money that went to those illegal immigrants, that's part of the public debt that citizens, United States citizens, not state citizens, federal citizens cannot question. So those Indians that say, I'm not giving up my U.S. citizenship, well, you better get your purse ready because them immigrants done racked up yet another bill to this national debt that you have to pay. Because that's what a United States citizen pays. Okay? You read it. It's right there. The validity of the public debt of the United States, let's not cut to the chase, y'all, shall not be questioned. Shall not be questioned. That is your debt slavery. You cannot question. When Massa says you got to do it, you best to get cracking. You got to get cracking. You can't say, but no, Massa, I'm tired. I can't. You looking for Patsy time? 12 years a slave Patsy time? You want a whipping like Patsy and then a good raping? Oops. Oh no. Okay. Um that was in the movie, y'all. I'm sorry. Um, yes. There is your debt slave clause, shall we call it. All United States federal citizens, when we say United States and federal please understand that they're synonymous. They're the exact same thing. It's more. I actually prefer to call it federal because then it plays off of the state citizen. So federal citizens are bound to the debts of the corporation called the United States. It shall not be questioned. Again, what is the difference between a federal citizen and a state citizen of a specific state, like Georgia state citizen, Florida state citizen, North Carolina state citizen? What is the difference between those citizens and a federal citizen? State citizens of each state, they can question public debt. It never said that they couldn't, so they can. Only the 14th Amendment federal citizen is the one who cannot question the public debt. Citizen of each state can question the public debt because they were supposed to be sovereign, even though the only people that can truly be sovereign are American Indians, and the other people are here on some form of conquest, some form of commerce, which is not law of the land. It's commercial in nature. How do we know that? Well, look, if your name is capitalized on all your federal documents, all your federal paperwork, that means you are acting in commerce. You are not a man or a woman because you couldn't be. What immigrants need to understand, legal ones as well as illegal ones, is that your standing in America is not based on anything that American Indians approved of. And the ones who are being said to have approved of it, well, they are compromised, federally created creations, right? Those civilized tribes, they don't speak for all Indians. But what happened is all Indians were reclassified Black and said to be from Africa. So those Indians would have been the ones more likely to uh, have not approved of this. Because why? They were losing more than they were gaining. Even the civilized tribes are not in commerce. That came up in the last video, and I was very glad it did, because commerce is an exchange between two nations, right? As we know, these federal tribes are already owned by the feds. Whatever the feds want from these civilized tribes, baby, they can take it. They don't have to pay. There is no commerce. What happened is the federal system, well, they reimagined what commerce originally was. They just redefined trade into commerce, and then commerce became basically domination of every citizen, as well as immigrants and, of course, American Indians. But American Indians are constantly being American Indians, if you haven't noticed, they're the only ones who are not, quote unquote, being invited to be American, because they are constantly reminded, and the world around them is reminded, oh, they're African. Meanwhile, Caucasians don't get called European American, right? And that's what the 1828 dictionary, Noah Webster's dictionary, sealed that situation, right? They said America, what it was, the definition of American, the copper-colored people found here by Europeans, but now applied to descendants of Europeans. So that means they're not going to be called European anymore. They're going to be called American. That's the 1828 dictionary definition of an American. There's a birthright and genocide at the same birthright theft and genocide all in one definition. They changed it since then, but that still is the effect of that definition. Full effect. It's in full effect. But we have to remember the doctrine of discovery has been repudiated. The only Americans are the ones that this is in their land. And unfortunately for many, those are the ones you're calling Negroes, black and colored. And I think the world will have to admit there is something going on with the quote unquote United States and quote unquote black people. Something that it doesn't seem to have a bottom. It doesn't seem to end. It would only end, ladies and gentlemen, if we were mass genocided. Then you wouldn't have us to worry about anymore. But as long as we're here, we're going to be a problem. And as you see, Martin Luther King, all the great leaders, none of them could ever solve this problem because the problem is not truly being addressed. And what is the problem? The problem is that the land belongs to those blacks, Negroes, and coloreds of America. That's what's not being said. So we have a recurring symptom of a disease, but no one knows what the disease is, still undiagnosed. They want us to believe that slavery in the 1600s is the disease. Well, even if it is the disease, it wasn't caused by those Negroes, right? They didn't take themselves into slavery, y'all, allegedly, right? It was 20 something odd Africans, and then those 20 some odd Africans became the entire population of quote unquote Negroes, right? Africans should have stayed African, right? That would make it easier. Since you're always calling us African, why not just call those why all the name changes, right? If you're dead set on me being African, you wouldn't need Negro, you wouldn't need colored, right? You wouldn't need black. I'd just be African. You see how this name game, it just confuses everything? Because now you can't tell the difference between an American and an American and an African. Because although this country insists that we're African, this government, I should say, they're the only ones who confuse the issue by introducing Negro color. Since when do you go by what a slave wants to be? If we were slaves, you're saying, oh, the slaves wanted to be called colored. Since when do you go by what slaves want? Alleged slaves. So no, there's no the same energy they insist upon having to make us not Indians should be the same energy they can use to make us one other thing. And if you want us to be African, you should have stayed with that narrative. You messed up, but you had to mess up. Why? Because back then, everyone knew we were not African. That's why they had to go through color, Negro, black. They couldn't call us African, y'all, because back then even Africa would have been like, oh, don't get me involved. Because then Africa would have to answer to what happened to these folks, y'all. We never saw them come in no ships except from the Caribbean. And then, oh, we dumped them off in the Caribbean first, and then they could stop lying. Stop lying, y'all. Okay, so are we clear on everyone is a 14th Amendment citizen unless you're like myself challenging that? So if you're not saying you're not a 14th Amendment citizen, this system looks at you. All they need, look, when they make you two things, trust me, they're going by the worst of those two things. Did you hear what I just said? They don't call you two different things to give you more. Okay. It sounds like, oh, they said I'm a dual citizenship. I'm a state citizen and a federal citizen at the same time. Yay. No, no, they're only treating you like a federal citizen because that's where they're going to get their money from. Look, they as a federal citizen, you can't question the debt. So why would they want to treat you like a state citizen when it's more profitable for them to treat you like a federal citizen? So what am I saying? Again, a dual citizenship is just it's a sham, right? Because at the end of the day, what's dominating your existence is that federal citizen. You don't even know your Bill of Rights to your state. But you're very familiar with the federal Bill of Rights. That's what it is, y'all. All of us are being uh, made to focus on the federal Bill of Rights. Because why? Because they're superseding your state Bill of Rights. And the federal has taken an authority over states that they should have never. Because why? As we said, what came first? Which came first, the federal government or the states? It was the states, y'all. The states are supposed to have authority. And the only reason why a state would give up that authority is for federal dollars, y'all. Come on, somebody, talk about it. Why would your state officials sell your ass out to the feds? Think about it, y'all. What's the one thing everybody wants, right? And Indians who are starting to rethink are starting to rethink that want. Feds have everybody hollering for a dollaring. Everybody, that's how they dominate y'all in commerce with their money. They're the only ones basically allowed to print money, which is asinine. If states have all the or the let's not all Indians have the all, okay, but if states have a higher uh let's say sovereignty than the feds, then who should be making the money, y'all? The feds just got themselves, they stuck themselves in the business of the states. There's no reason why states can't say now, even if we had a situation where one state is doing commerce with, say, Germany, and another state is doing more commerce with France. There's nothing wrong with that, y'all. But the feds think there's a problem with that. It has to be uniform. Why? It's not uniform in other countries. In Europe, every country is separate. In Africa, every country is separate. But in America, they want all. Look, why is it different in America? Because there is an entity that wants access to all of America's wonderful resources, right? Now, the places where the resources are maybe not the same as in America, they can be separate. America, all states are being sunned by the feds, and the states were first. So that's what makes this legally incoherent, legally fallible, a legal misnomer. States have the power, y'all. Wouldn't it be okay? Not more power. I'm not saying they have more power than American Indians. What I'm saying is states are more powerful than the feds. But once they introduced the 14th Amendment, the feds took control of each state's citizen. So then what is this purpose of the state now? A state is, it's really, let me tell y'all something. At this juncture, there's absolutely no validity to having separate states when they're all run by one district that is owned by whoever bought it. Did Elon Musk buy it? It kind of looks like he did, y'all. But as Anna always teaches, for those who have the presence of mind to listen, you always go to the principle, the creator of the thing. Who created this system, y'all? Indians, do not open your mouth. Please do not do it right now. Just please zip it up right now. You did not create this system, let alone the citizens. Indians did not create this system. There would be no reason for Indians to create a system. Okay, let's try to look at this at a different angle. Say now you're China and you want to be involved in commerce with the quote unquote United States. Would that commerce need to have the United States create states in China? Does commerce require that the person you're in commerce with move to your land to and be involved in commerce? Is it a requirement? No, it is not. Commerce can be conducted as it was meant to be overseas. So Indians would not have need to have the people that they're in commerce with be on Indian land. The only reason why someone Indians are doing commerce with would want to be on the land is because they intend to take it without commerce being involved. Do you understand what I'm saying? The only reason someone who is dying to do commerce with you, but also requiring that you entertain them on your land, on your ancestral land, trust me, they're not doing commerce with you, y'all. They are stealing from you. So that's why it wouldn't even make sense for Indians to design a system like this. No one does that, y'all. No one does it. When they do, it's because of what I just said. They plan to take your resources, not buy them. They plan to take them and sell them for themselves. And what profit are you gonna get, Americans? What, the privilege of being called civilized? Is it civilized for someone to steal from you while you're being called civilized and they're acting every bit of a beast, uncivilized, because they're stealing from you like a bird of prey? The eagle has landed. The eagle needs to carry his ass back to Britain. Remember, we're talking about Black Moors, okay? Um, if anything, you just got to go back to the principle, just like we just said. Who's the principal? The Black Moors are. The Black Moors are, y'all. And they're still here. There's no way you work this hard for this much power just to disappear, y'all. Stop it. Stop playing with me. You don't work this hard to establish a system where all wealth is funneled to you and only you, because no one shall question the debt that you're raking up. You don't work this hard to have this kind of racket going for you to just disappear. What am I saying? And Black nobility never went anywhere. They're still getting the system is here for them to get paid, y'all. All this pontificating Heru is doing, it should be we should end this video. But so we clear on the highlighted portion of how every United States federal citizen is a slave to debt. Okay, let's move on. So we keep talking about Indians not taxed versus Indian tribes. So this is just the screenshot that I spoke about in the last video, more on Indians not taxed. This is what I was reading from. Now, again, I told you I created this to compare the 2 points in the Constitution. What is Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3 saying or indicating versus what is being indicated by Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3? One is Indians not taxed, and we proved. Now, a lot of people want to say, that's talking about tribes too. No, it's not. It's not possible. These were Indians that took allotments, y'all. These Indians not taxed were already removed from their tribes, okay? That's the only way this makes sense, or they never were, they just were not part of the system. How about that? But basically, they were Indians who had were not part of tribes, y'all, not actively involved in tribes. But you know you're going to hear a lot of people say that there is no difference between. That's why we want to point it out, the difference. We wanted to point out the difference because there is a difference. Okay, Indians not taxed are not Indian tribes. Why? Because the word tribe is nowhere here in this clause. It's in this clause. That's why they mention them, y'all. If they were the same, they would not be called Indian tribes, and one would not be called Indian not taxed. Okay. In law, you really have to start to think in terms of word for word comparisons because any change means the entity is no longer the entity that was originally spoken of. Originally, Indians entered, see, they didn't want to deal with you as tribes. So you started out in the Constitution as Indians not taxed. So they want to deal with you on an individual basis. But the way they're dealing with you is you're not represented in Congress, you're not taxed. You're not counted in the census. The government has no jurisdiction. You make your own laws and you're not taxed and you're sovereign. Okay. That's how they were going to deal with you as an individual. So they were just waiting for you to give up your sovereignty, realizing that by yourself, since they say what, no man or woman is an island. I know women say, okay, okay, all right. Ain't that no man, not no woman. Oh boy. Well, we not going there, right? Why we gotta start all these little fires? You don't have time to put them out. Okay. India's not taxed. We will keep saying it until it makes sense. They are not the same as Indian tribes. And look at the differences. So Indians not taxed are not represented in Congress. Indians and tribes, Congress has plenary authority over Indian tribes, not individual Indians. See, this is what we have to make clear to this system, and that's what I intend to do, y'all. That's what I intend to do. We cannot allow for them to do these shenanigans, especially in light of the doctrine of discovery being repudiated. So again, what's the differences between Indians not taxed, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, and Indian tribes? It's significant, y'all. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. So Indians not taxed are not taxed, okay? Indian tribes will be tax exempt, right? Because they are set up like 501c3 churches. They're little corporations, y'all. So they have been remade. Remember Tina Turner says, make me over? That's what Indian tribes did. They said, make me over. And then Dion said, Don't you do that bullshit. Don't you make me over. Now that I let you take some of my land, don't make me over. And they said, Dion, we're gonna put you in bankruptcy, girl. We're gonna put you on the psych ain't never, girl. You need a reading. But Dion's still here, y'all. Dion's still here. Hail to the Queen Dion. So Indian tribes have been made over into 501c3s. Okay. They're little creations of the federal corporation. Okay. None of this is what our ancestors were prior to colonization. All of this bull crap, we were none of that. Okay. This is what we was, y'all. And it's not tax. This is what we was. All right. This is more like what we were, except for the fact that we were in tribes as well. See, we could be both when before colonizer came. After colonizer came, he split you in his little constitution. He's saying that the Iroquois told him to do that. Mm-hmm. Well, we know that Iroquois didn't know how to write, so um, maybe the Iroquois didn't know what the freak they were doing. Huh? You better take that pass, Iroquois Confederacy. You better take that pass I'm giving you out of mercy. Oh boy. They were infiltrated, y'all. Why they became not Algonquin anymore is because Moors had to break up Algonquins into Iroquois confederacies, Cherokee nations, five civilized tribes, Washita, and Lenni Lenape. Oh, somebody got to do a deep dive on Lenni Lenape one day because I found some stuff recently that, oh boy, them Lenni Lenape is, ooh, they so Moorish. Oh my God. I didn't had no idea how Moorish the Lenni Lenape was, y'all. But they got the Moors are doing like a what do you call it? Oh, etymology breakdown, y'all. I found somewhere with a Lenny. I'm sorry, the Moors are doing a etymological breakdown of what Lenny Lenape. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. Those are the Algonquins that sold out, y'all. Lenny Lenape. The other tribes don't even know that they were Algonquin, but the Lenni Lenape somehow maintained being Algonquin. So they are the farthest thing from a true Algonquin. Somebody got to say it, y'all. I don't advocate violence, but I sure ain't going to sit up here and bullshit with the truth. And again, all these compromised Indians, they still have options. They would have to choose their Indian, and they have to. I'm just going to really be clear, this is really not an option at this point. All Indians should be their Indian, the dominant in their mixed families. Because again, what is an example that we can use? You Indians who have been compromised with Moors, Lenni Lenape, Iroquois, and five civilized tribes. When you go to your European side of the family, are they entertaining you dominating their culture? So why are you entertaining them dominating ours? We have to hold ours at the utmost sacred level. Why? Because we're here and we're not over there in Europe. European Moors, they should be, honoring their ancestors by staying where their European ancestors originated, right? So that is why American Indians need to rethink the idea of coddling Black Europeans who are in your family and who just all they want to talk about is their side of the family. They look at you as y'all was heathen at first, but That's what the black European has in his mind over Indians, is that he was never considered heathen because he was black European, right? And he was born and raised in the religion, and American Indians were not. Plymouth Rock landed on their head, not the other way around. So that is what your black European is holding over you. I was never heathen, so you got to follow my lead. I'm the one that was chosen by God, right? Not you. So you just shut up and sit over there and let me take over your land so you be good. No, I'm not going to be good with you here, black European. And if your God told you to come and take my land, I really have to side eye both of y'all. Okay. You need to go back home with all your what do you want to call it? Patriotism. Okay. Take it to your house and then you'll be a real patriot. But here in American Indian house, no, you're not a patriot. You're skating on the thin ice of genocide of Indians. Okay, that's what you're doing, Black Europeans. You should have been honoring our traditions, not the other way around. That's how you respect the people and you avoid genociding those people. Indians have to really be clear as to what happened. Now, if they were real about their shit, they would not have wanted your land, Indians. They would have said, you are cursed because you're heathen, and so is your land. And our God don't want us to mess with that cursed land. That's what it, if they was all the way real with it, they wouldn't even want to be here, y'all. But here's what we got going on. They see the land as very good, y'all. But somehow God got it wrong when he put us on it. Yeah, right. You believe that lie, black European ass. This is all a psych, y'all. The land is good because you're good. Let's just call it out like it is. If I was so what black Europeans think I am, there's no way that the most ancient deities would be gracing us with this bountiful land. But see, that's the irony of this all. You got people that, and again, I'm always talking about black Europeans, claiming that they're so favored, but your land is not. Either your land is not, or you don't have land, period. Which one is it? It's a little bit of both. All right. That's the crazy thing in all this. If Indians really, really, really go deep into the psychology or the spirituality, I should say, why would God have a bunch of heathen prospering on a very fertile and valuable land and have the ones who are so favored, like Rome and the British Isles, so so dedicated to not staying in their on their square. Now these Moors talk about squares, but they're the last people to stay in their square. Don't you see that, American Indian? Their squares are in Europe. So when they say stand on your square, Negro, I'm trying to, but you won't move your fat ass so I can. On my land while I'm trying to figure out if I want to pay a bill or have dinner and stuff like that. Come on, let's be real about it. These days, these prices is off the chain. Meanwhile, the illegal immigrants, they came, had a wonderful dinner, and got sent home. And we still, not only are we left with the bill, y'all, because as we read from that last slide, who can't question the debt? Federal United States citizens, y'all. If state citizens had the original authority that they had over the feds, they would be able to question the debt. State citizens. People think that state citizens and federal citizens are like in the windmills of Heru's imagination. I tell you, you won't learn this kind of thing from civilized tribes. They don't seem to really go into this. Again, who did I learn the difference from? Negroes, I'm sorry, y'all don't know the difference. You think that it's all the same, states, federal. Yeah, look, they're not the same, y'all. One came before the other, and it was the states. So they don't even get their own system right. How are they going to govern ours, y'all? States should have had the final say over feds, y'all. Unless, no, I'm not going to even go there. I'm not going there, y'all. I'm not going there. Because the feds also claim that they are here for national defense. You're in DC. How are you going to defend all 50 states? You're going to grab men from those 50 states that they don't need you to grab if they had those men to make their armies. They don't need them to be under your jurisdiction. So if you're in DC only and all the state, if you know, in other words, is it is it is it necessary for you to claim to be here for national defense when a lot of your population are just men from these states that could just as easily be trained in each state to know how to react in a uh, event of one of these staged wars? Commerce. So then the feds say that they're here for commerce. But the states have more authority than you. They don't need you in their affairs. They should know how to conduct commerce with each other. And then commerce is supposed to take place over the high seas. These states are right next to each other with very little water separating them. So your regulation really is not needed because between the states, we shouldn't be taxing each other if we're United States. Now, as separate countries, maybe, but under your jurisdiction, we shouldn't be taxing each other. Say we, I mean that loosely because as an Indian, I don't live in a state, but I have a lot of states on my land, though. That's the of the American Indian. But there can be synonymous uh standings on the land Indians. And what I mean by that is you organize, especially as Algonquins. If we see, we would have to organize as Algonquins because the other Indians have been compromised. So when we show that we mean business, we will more likely unify under an Algonquin banner because that's what we were speaking in all of the eastern woodland areas. So maybe Indians don't like that idea, but I'm telling you, and I'm not trying to disgrace you in any way, because I'm just bringing you back to your origin. That's all I'm doing. I'm not saying that, oh, Heru trying to make all of us Algonquin. No, I just read with comprehension, dear, that that's the oldest language in the eastern woodlands before Iroquois, before Muskogean, before Timucuan, before Siouan. Now, I think that's all the Eastern Indians, I think, you know. But what I'm saying is the oldest, wouldn't Indians have to go with their oldest uh, existence to claim their birthright? You can't go and colonize a time frame to claim your birthright. You got to show that you were here before him. You see what I'm saying? So you don't want to start in the 1700s, as some Black Europeans are suggesting that, oh, we should just start in the 1700s with our history. No, we didn't want to do it when they called us African. We don't want to do it when they call us Black European. We got to go back to where they weren't here to claim our standing. So that's what the other Indians have to do. We can do it, y'all. There's nothing wrong really with being identified with your oldest ancestors who spoke Algonquian. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you'll be what we claim to be doing is honoring our ancestors, right? So what better way to do it than go back to the language that they all knew? And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to have to close this video. I have so much more, but I can't do it all at once because it's going to be a long ass video. And I got to get word for word. Yeah, I go into the office today. So I got about an hour and a half to sort of chill and get ready. So I'm going to say, let's reconvene. Hopefully, if not during the week, definitely on a weekend. And we're going to pick up where we left off, okay? We didn't get through all of these, but look at them. They're right there. We did the video before this on this, but there's the differences. Number 4, we're not counted in the census. Number 4, we're Indian tribes. Okay. Yeah, you're gonna be counted, y'all. It's the idea is we're not supposed to be reporting to our colonizer how our numbers, because then our colonizer gonna wanna, cook up some kind of concoction for us to inject. Okay, shall I say it that way? Okay. So the idea is, why get him upset? Don't let him know. You don't have to know how many of you here, because this is your land. We wouldn't want to be counted. You see what I'm saying? It's not, we should be counting them is what's really the story going on, because we got to make sure that we are here, right? And not being genocided, right? American? Okay. So whether they count you in a census or not, the deal with Indian tribes is that they have to report to the feds, just like any corporation does, okay? The government has no jurisdiction over Indians not taxed. But Indian tribes, the government grabs jurisdiction in the guise of regulation. Regulation is domination because it was never defined. When that Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3 says the federal has authority to regulate commerce. No one knew what they meant by regulation but them, okay? And they knew that meant we just gonna take over these foods. So Indians not taxed. Number 6, they make their own laws. They have to, because they're not under federal Indian laws, or what Peter Dorico calls federal anti-Indian laws. So even in their system, they're not being served, y'all. The laws that the feds make for Indians result in them losing land, having no say, and having the feds speak for them, okay? So no, you don't make your own laws. You're under regulation, okay? So-called, right? Indians not taxed are virtually, and they are sovereign. They're not represented in Congress because they are sovereign, okay? Indian tribes, on the other hand, are seen as domestic dependent. So you can't be sovereign because you're dependent on the feds in their world. They've made you dependent, okay? They don't want you to be independent. They want you to be dependent. But an Indian should not be dependent. The government is actually dependent on your land. So who is the one who is domestic dependent? But you see, when they're running all your resources and they're making the profit, you become domestic dependent. So Indian tribes, federal, we shouldn't put federal because these are federally recognized, right? This is the five civilized tribes. This is the Iroquois. This is the Lenni Lenape, right? Uh, all of them, they might as well be citizens, y'all, because they're not, nothing they're doing is reflecting on their being owners of their land like Indians would be or should be. So Indian tribes, according to the Constitution, they're just, I'm telling you, y'all, it's like they're the toilet paper of the United States because they are now, whereas citizens don't have access to this on the left, Indians would. But once they become federal tribes that are recognized and all of that, they lose. I don't know what it is they're getting, really, that oh, yeah. Oh, how could I forget? But no, they're not even really getting money. I think they're getting this is the American dream on the right here, y'all. This is the real dream because Indians are definitely asleep to entertain all this bullshit. Okay. They have to be asleep. Okay. So what is the remedy for this? Technically, and if we go by the wording, Indians not taxed can form Indian tribes. Because we'd have to ask, how does a system claim to support Indians as Indians not taxed, but not want them to have tribes to support them? So, in essence, the way the Constitution is laid out, and this was done on purpose, Indians not taxed do not have the support of fellow Indians of an Indian tribe because Indian tribes have now been reimagined to be domestic dependent. So if I'm an Indian not taxed, it's like joining a tribe. It's a step down from my status as an Indian not taxed. But again, what the government is hoping is that we feel disempowered and we don't claim these birthright uh, rights. So Indians not taxed is the superior of the two Indians mentioned. So if you want to take a screenshot, please do. Have to sort of meditate. We have to meditate on this because it's very real, y'all. It's in the Constitution. And what we have to show is that the Constitution, it's faking the support of Indians if they're only entertaining Indian tribes that are basically being dominated by Congress. So you're not really supporting Indians if you only support them being dominated by you. What you have to start doing, giving up that land so that Indians can be outside of the system. But what they're going to have to live on for a time being are the reparations you owe. So then the question is, well, if we let you be Indians not taxed like you're supposed to be, how are you going to survive? Because y'all, we claiming that we have to regulate your commerce, so you won't have commerce. We're going to have to demand our reparations, which is going to support us for the rest of our life while you're here and even after you're gone. So, because you've taken away what uh, monetary or financial stability I would have as an Indian tribe, you have to compensate for that to Indians not taxed. You, federal government, have to support Indians not taxed in all. So you will be the financial backing. They won't even have to work with what you owe them. This is what has to happen, y'all. The doctrine of discovery was repudiated, so they've all been convicted. Reparations are owed to nations who were injured by another nation. Make it very clear that Indians were severely injured by this foreign nation because the foreign nation is taking the role of some kind of foster parent while on my land. While I'm on my land, now if you took me captive to your land, maybe you could play daddy. But on my land, for you to look to son me is just not making real logical sense. You got my mind kind of brainwashed for me to think that you have to be my daddy on my land. I was here before you came, and I will be here after you are gone. It's time to pay up, okay? Martin Luther said we came to collect a check, right? But Martin had already pretty much, I want to say he must have oathed. Uh, and that's why when he started talking truth to power, the oath kicked in. And he knew he wasn't going to make it, y'all. Uh, Indians, hear me and hear me well. What you want is what illegal immigrants got. And that was they had a card. Dane Calloway has recently spoken again on this card that illegals got. So help me. Every Indian has a right to that card, but better. And when I say but better, what I mean is we don't pay anything back. Those are the reparations. And they are here as long as we are here and as long as this system is here. But I do believe even after they're gone, they still have to pay until Indians have full control. That will be the measure. Until Indians have full commerce control over their resources on their land, they're going to they have to be compensated while they're being dominated. And the domination, again, if we are not able to sustain ourselves through commerce, that's how long you have to support us. Because us not being able to sustain ourselves or conduct commerce is a result of you taking over our land. So you have to make sure we live as if immensely on our land, because that's what you robbed us of. And evidently, you still being here means it's still profitable. Our land is still profitable to you. Not only that, but it's what you've done with us. You've basically reduced us to workers, working our land for your benefit and your profit. That's why the United States and anyone who's gotten in bed with them, they have to support the fear of American Indians. And that's what reparations would look like. Forget the fiat. We don't pay for anything. Again, as long as we're here, we don't pay for anything. As long as you are dominating our commerce, you're getting profit from our goods. Then you have to compensate us. And logically, it can't be that you're making more than us. I mean, that should be the idea is if you're making so much on our, then we would have to like double that as what goes to us. I mean, that's what they're doing with us in corporations. The corporate owner is getting the real money, and those who are just working on his plantation are getting, by design, getting much less. But you see, a system like this, because it's really a creation of nobility, they can't even, they don't want to even want to dream that they could possibly owe the people that they stole a living from their living. They don't want to even dream that they owe that because what? Well, God chose us to take your stuff. Well, your Pope said otherwise. He said that wasn't what the church meant. I think that's taking it a little far, but that's your daddy, right? You came here because your daddy told you to, right? Now your daddy just said that's not what he meant. Okay. I know you're mad at your daddy. I know, but that's between you and your daddy. Okay. He's doing the right thing. Okay. He had to do it. So on that note, I think we're going to close out. Until next time, uh, thank you for watching. I want to say be and stay highly favored.